I'm joined now by Norm Eisen. Norm, thank you so much for taking the time.
Brian, thanks for having me back.
So, you are once again in the news, this time not because Trump has decided to call you out during some speech to the Department of Justice, although the news that you're about to bring may be cause for him to try and do it again. Can you explain what just happened in court?
Yes, Brian. We at State Democracy Defenders Fund, my nonpartisan nonprofit organization, brought a lawsuit arguing that under the Constitution, Elon Musk and Doge are not authorized to operate. That's because anyone who is acting as a principal officer who has significant authority making decisions on their own with massive impacts is supposed to be confirmed by the United States Senate, like cabinet members. Well, Elon Musk is a kind of a super cabinet member. Obviously, he's never been confirmed. No accountability, forbidden by the Constitution. He's also running the Doge, which with him is tearing down agencies like the U.S. Agency for International Development that Congress says must be allowed to operate. So that's a violation of the constitutional idea of separation of powers, that the executive branch can't ignore the dictates of the legislative branch. Article 2 can't defy Article 1. And today, a judge found for the first time in all of these 100+ cases that have been brought, that Elon Musk and Doge are violating the Constitution, violating the Appointments Clause, violating the separation of powers. It is a landmark win.
Okay, so I have two questions here. One, what is the immediate remedy? And two, do you expect that this will be appealed? And what does that process look like moving forward?
The judge entered a preliminary injunction where he has ordered that a series of things that happened that really destroyed USAID have to be unwound, or other remedies have to be granted. So we're going to see relief. Our clients in this case, 26 brave USAID employees all over the world who spoke out against the unconstitutionality, they and many others are going to get relief. No more illegality. And as to whether it'll be appealed, we're expecting there's going to be a prompt appeal, and we're ready to keep fighting. We think we're on strong legal grounds, and we think this landmark case will be picked up by other courts to deal with other aspects of Elon Musk and Doge's illegality. So it's a very big day for the Constitution and the American people.
With that said, Norm, we've seen that the Trump administration will get handed a ruling that they don't agree with and they refuse to comply. Just days ago, Judge Boasberg handed down a ruling that said that these suspected or alleged gang members weren't allowed to be flown to El Salvador, and Donald Trump's White House just opted not to comply with that ruling. And so now more court proceedings are happening with Judge Boasberg, and there is the prospect of contempt on the table. But how certain are you that the Trump administration will actually comply with the remedies that are set forth by this judge?
You know, the Judge Boasberg example is such an important one because today there are reports that innocent people were swept up in that raid and put
Of
on that
course,
plane.
of
So
course.
there's innocent people who've been stuck in a prison in a foreign country. I mean, that's why we have these rules. That's why you're supposed to obey court orders. I think that what you're seeing is massive public outcry, the press and the public, about these court orders that do appear to have been defied, that were issued here in DC on this mass deportation that we now reportedly know includes some folks who did nothing wrong. And the courts are going to stand up for their prerogatives. We talked about Article 1, Congress and their rights. We talked about Article 2, the presidency. They can't invade Article 1. Guess who the referee is? Article 3, the courts. And today, the umpire, and when he was confirmed before Congress, he said he would call balls and strikes. He called a strike on Donald Trump. Chief Justice John Roberts fired. You might call it a high heart one, threw a fastball at Trump's head. He said, because Trump had been talking about impeaching Judge Boasberg, Roberts said the way we deal with disagreements in this country is in court is through appeals, not through impeachment. So that was an extraordinary rebuke. The Chief Justice of the United States suggesting that Donald Trump doesn't have the votes on the Supreme Court to cover up this illegal behavior of ignoring court orders. And Brian, the last line of our opinion was that the government shall obey the orders of this court. In my appointments clause case, the judge put that in there because he sees that they are playing footsie.
And so what happens in the event, for example, given that that Trump's refusal to comply with court orders is so obvious and so egregious and so well established at this point that it's causing judges to even add these addendums to their opinions, saying that it's incumbent upon the administration to actually comply with the orders that are handed down by these judges. What happens in the event that he opts not to and says, you know what, we were handed down this ruling by what we view as a corrupt, radical left, Marxist, communist judge who wasn't elected by the people like I was elected by the people, and we're just going to appeal this and wait to see what happens in the appeals court, but we're not going to move on this so long as it's with just a lowly trial court judge?
What you're going to see if they do that, you're going to see an escalation of multiple pressure points that I believe will bring the Trump administration to heel. First of all, they don't dare to say they're just ignoring the court's order. So what the White House actually says is, well, we're complying with the court's order. Then they provide various excuses, loopholes, off ramps.
Right.
So that shows you that they're aware that there's a danger or risk to them. The risk is that if they don't comply with Judge Boasberg, that he hits them with civil or even criminal contempt, that he sanctions them in the case, that it goes up to the DC Circuit, the first level of appeal. It goes up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says they did wrong. If that happens, a majority conservative Supreme Court, I think you're going to see the political system activated. I think you're going to see there's not many of them, a few brave Republicans, the Senate, the House say, hey, you went too far. We're not going to approve your nominees until you comply with these court orders. Ultimately, I think you're going to see the American people. We have a huge nationwide and here in DC march planned April 5th. I think you're going to see the American people respond. And I'll say one other thing about the ripple effect of illegality, Brian. Right now, this illegal behavior that I've been arguing about in this case that we won, State Democracy Defenders Fund colleagues and myself, the appointments clause case, Elon Musk and Doge, unconstitutional behavior, that's an issue. In the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, that race has become a referendum on Elon Musk's illegality. There are consequences, and I think there are going to be very serious electoral consequences if Trump defies court orders.
And by the way, we've seen that play itself out. Elon, of course, has business in front of Wisconsin judges, and so of course this is where he's seeking to put his influence into effect and start spending some money, and he's looking to buy yet another elected official in yet another state. He basically saw, okay, it worked with Donald Trump, where I was able to spend $250 million to buy the president of the United States. Now this is his test case in Wisconsin, where he's saying, okay, if this works here, then this means that for a fraction of what I'm worth, just $1 million here, $1 million there, I can basically buy the entirety of the U.S. government across the entire country.
Another legally separate organization, State Democracy Defenders Action, filed a complaint yesterday saying not only that Elon Musk is pouring money in to attempt to influence that Wisconsin election, but that there are very serious improprieties in the legally required disclosures that you have to make in a PAC that he's supported that has failed to make those proper disclosures. So there's now a complaint on file we're supporting a longtime Wisconsin conservative activist who filed this complaint. The people of Wisconsin are not going to tolerate it, Brian. They have an election coming up April 1st. Early voting is beginning, and that election has turned into a referendum on Elon Musk.
Right. And so I would just, offer this message up to folks who are watching right now. If you live in Wisconsin, if you know somebody who lives in Wisconsin, family, friends, neighbors, whoever it may be, look, if you have any issue with the overreach that we're seeing from the Trump administration, from Elon Musk right now, this is the way to voice your discontent. This is the way to voice your dissatisfaction with that. Again, this is his test case. Elon is basically showing us that, okay, it worked in the presidential race. If I can spend money here, I'll know that I can spend money in every single race across the country and rebuild the entire government, legislative, executive, and judicial, in the mold of what I want to see, which is to say, basically a technocratic oligarchy. And so this is our opportunity to push back. We have 2 weeks left in this Wisconsin race. So again, if anybody's watching right now that lives in Wisconsin or knows somebody who lives in Wisconsin, this is your opportunity to take action here among a Democratic electorate that has been agitating for something to be done. This is really our first outlet and the most important outlet that we have right in front of us. Norm, let's finish off with this. You have this complaint pending against Elon Musk. You have yet another lawsuit that you've won in court against Donald Trump. Already, we've seen Trump speak out against you, name check you directly while he was basically offering up a little wink and a nudge to these federal prosecutors in terms of who he doesn't like. Do you have any concern as you continue to defeat these guys in court almost on a weekly basis at this point, that they're going to ramp up the attacks against you?
Well, first we talked about my legal activities, and they're legally separate. These lawsuits, we do those in one organization. We've had 3 wins over there in the past week. Then we discussed a second set of issues that I do in my 501c4 State Democracy Defenders Action. But now, Brian, you're asking about me, just Norm, the person, your friend, because I'm a frequent guest on the show, and Brian and I are friends in real life too. I would say that from a personal perspective, look, it's never pleasant when the most powerful person in the world singles you out at the Department of Justice and says that to the law enforcement officials there, this is my one chance to talk about Norm, meaning go get him, guys.
Yeah.
But I took it as a high honor, a backhanded compliment, as praise and recognition. And just as an individual, I would say I'm one American in a nation of over 300 million of us. But what's important is that each of us in our own way step up and do what we can for our democracy. What I can do for the democracy is speak out. I think that Donald Trump's behavior exemplified what people in this country don't like about him. He's a bully. He's abusing his power. He's targeting people. He's doing the very weaponization that he complains about. Right. I think that his acting out is part of the reason that we're seeing his poll numbers plummet. I was looking in the Quinnipiac poll this morning. He's headed for the 30s in that poll. He's not behaving as the president should. So if I can help make that point, if I'm an example of that, and do my share to push back on autocracy and to peacefully and lawfully fight for our democracy, I'm glad and I'm honored to do it.
Well, Norm, you have proven yourself probably among the top echelon of folks who are actually willing to get out there and fight. And look, being a fighter has become my entire ethos as we've entered this second Trump term, and you're exemplifying it more than anybody else. So I appreciate the work you're doing. I know I speak on behalf of a lot of people who are watching and listening right now who appreciate the work you're doing. Just know that you've got an army of us behind you. So with that said, Norm, I'm sure we'll have you back very soon. Thank you again for the work you're doing and for taking the time today.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks to everybody watching and listening.